we'll bring you right back in.
Great.
All right, and welcome to Videoguys Live, Tuesdays at 3 p.m. We teach you about the technology we sell. Today's show is focusing on LiveU Solo. We have a special guest, Dan Pisarski. Daniel is a VP of Engineering for LiveU, and he's a great guy. Spent a lot of time with him both socially at functions and talking about tech and stuff like that. And I guarantee at some point in this conversation, we will get lost in the woods. But we're going to try to keep it started and keep it on the LiveU Solo. So first, let's talk about what the LiveU Solo is. And if we could come to me, this is this little box right here. We've done a lot of shows on it. The LiveU Solo is a top grade encoder, a fantastic encoder, and it'll encode to any RTMP stream. And this one takes HDMI. There's also a version that's HDMI and SDI. But what makes it so special is what you're seeing here. You can take a pair of cellular modems and bond them together to get a bigger pipe up into the cloud where the LiveU LRT combines it and then shoots it back down to Facebook, YouTube, or whatever. So we're going to bring Dan in now. And Dan, the LiveU Solo, 2 flavors, $9.95, $14.95. But what I really want to talk to you about are the different ways that the LiveU Solo can connect to the internet, because it doesn't have to be modems. It doesn't have to be, you tell us about the different options that you've got there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's really 4 total connections available on the Solo. You have 2 USB ports meant for LTE modems, as you were showing. You've got the LAN port to plug it into your, LAN at home, plug it into LAN at a venue, or in some cases, plug it into a LAN port on a MiFi if you're trying to add even another LTE connection to it. And then, of course, Wi-Fi. Again, the venue Wi-Fi, the Starbucks Wi-Fi up the street, the McDonald's Wi-Fi, or just Wi-Fi in your house. So we think the Solo makes a great encoder, even just as a LAN encoder. You use the Solo just over LAN. It doesn't have to be necessarily involve bonding. It doesn't have to necessarily involve LTE, but you've got the option to bring up to 4 connections, and with LRT turned on, you can combine all those 4 connections into one pipe.
Cool. Now, Raul asked us a question about the LiveU Solo Plus. Now, that's a product only available in Europe, correct, Dan?
That's correct. I mean, we've got, some specific rules when it comes to U.S. carriers. If you guys have ever worked with carriers before, the U.S. carriers are a little tougher than some carriers elsewhere in the world. So the LiveU Solo Plus is an option in Europe, but it's not an option in the U.S., unfortunately.
Cool. And what we did was, in all honesty, Dan, when we were first selling this product, we loved it. We were big fans of it, but there was a fundamental problem with the product. We would ship people the product, and they couldn't find cellular modems. They'd go to their local AT&T or T-Mobile or Verizon store, and they'd look at them like they had 3 heads, because the industry was moving away from modems towards those little hotspot hockey pucks, which will work with this product, but it got people very confused. So I can remember we were at a sales kickoff and we were begging you guys, could you give us modems? And Dan, you rose to the occasion and you did it. So tell us about the LiveU Solo Connect kits.
Yeah, so you really hit the nail on the head. I mean, when we very first launched the Solo, you could even sometimes walk into like a store and buy the modem. But as you said, that changed very fast from a cultural standpoint with the carriers, to where you would walk in your local store and they would say, USB what? So Wi-Fi's work great, but as you said, you guys brought this to our attention. We really needed some much more hassle-free way for end users to get the modems. So we went out and tested the modems. They're not modems we built. They are third-party modems, but we went out and tested the right ones, make sure the carriers approved them. Again, the U.S. carriers can be tough when it comes to those kind of rules, and then just bundle them together so that you can get that with the unit, or even if you already have a unit and you're just looking for a way to get the modems. And we made a 2 modem and a 3 modem, meaning 2 USB modems and 1 MiFi that you can tether over the LAN port, as I previously mentioned, to the unit. Right. You have either option in the starting kit.
But what really sets these kits apart isn't just the modems, which, picking this up again, these are the little modems plugged in USB on each side. These are the modems. They're nice and small. They work great. But what separates it, makes it really better, is you found a way to include a data package with this, where when you buy the 2 modems and Connect kit, you can also subscribe to a data package. And what's most intriguing about it is it's unlimited data. So if you're a church or a school, or you're doing an event like a football game, you don't have to worry that all of a sudden your stream's going to get cut down. And while we all know unlimited data sometimes means it can be clipped, you guys purchase this data in such a bulk level as LiveU that we're nowhere close to getting clipped at this point, correct?
That's right. I mean, LiveU does a lot of business in the news gathering world, where our customers are every major news gathering organization on the planet: CNN, NBC, Fox News, Reuters, AP, and we manage data for almost all of those organizations as well. So LiveU buys more LTE data than you can imagine, and we were, based on those relationships with the carriers, able to kind of come up with a plan that was specifically tailored for the Solo, and the carriers were pretty interested to do that. Once we described the use cases that the Solo is commonly used for to them, they were pretty excited to make those data plans available. And they get the idea that the person who's using the Solo can't be burdened with a plan where they've got to predict how much data they're going to use every month. You might have 1 gig you're doing that month, you might have a gig every single day that month, and we understand that there's different levels of customers. So we thought the unlimited was a key point here.
Okay, so someone said, how are you selling these kits? Well, let me explain how we're selling the kits. The kits have modems and the MiFi placer. You're sourcing them to us, and then you're providing SIMs that you negotiate direct data deals with the carriers. So what happens is when you buy the LiveU, you can buy it with the Connect kit. Now, we like to say that gets you reliable bandwidth. Now, you're welcome to use your own modems if you can find them, but what we love about this is it's so easy and simple to do. Plus, because everything's coming from LiveU, the end-to-end support is better. If someone runs into a problem with one of these modems, you guys are just super fantastic at troubleshooting, figuring out what's wrong. When it's a third-party modem, well, that opens another can of worms. It could be another problem. Plus, they're now going through your carrier contracts, so you can more directly see if there's something going on locally with connections and stuff like that. So that's it, to answer Aaron's question on there, and I'll be interjecting with questions when we get them at times, Dan. I know you can't read the message board, but I can. So one of the things I think we need to talk about, if we're going to talk about the Connect kit and the cellular bonding, is the LRT cloud service. Now, before we get to the cloud service, you mentioned it, and I want to say it again. The LiveU encoder is a phenomenal encoder on its own. If you just want to encode directly to Wi-Fi or plug into your Ethernet, to get to your network and out to the internet, you can. It'll work great. We love it. It's reliable. It is a phenomenal quality, and it really does a great job. But what makes it so great is the secret sauce, and that secret sauce is the LRT cloud service, because that's what lets you take these two modems on two different carriers, have them come to the cloud, bond together, and now we're getting a much bigger pipe, and we bring that pipe with us wherever we go. If your modems can find the cell service, you have bandwidth. Talk about LRT a little bit and why it's so special.
So LRT is really the algorithm that LiveU has developed over the last 10 years of working with these news organizations, as I mentioned, plus all different kinds of live video producing organizations around the globe. It incorporates bonding, other forms of resiliency, such as packet verification, packet resends, a technique called forward error correction, that is a mathematical way to include packets in the stream that allow us to recover other packets that get lost during the transmission. It even includes some components of the protocol that are meant specifically for the way LTE wireless networks behave, in terms of varying latency, changing bandwidth, lost packets in the travel steps. All of that's incorporated as resiliency here. We've worked on that protocol and algorithm over the last decade for our products, and that's what Solo's using, the same protocol that the larger units used by news organizations uses. In fact, it's even simplified here for our Solo end users because it's elastically scalable. So you're paying us a flat rate per month or a discounted rate per year, and you're able to use it anytime you want. We don't have to set aside specific cloud resources for you. You don't have to own a decode server. It just passes through an elastic cloud. Our cloud comes out as RTMP on the far side to go on to wherever you're going.
And Dan, we're giving resiliency, we're giving redundancy, and we're giving load balancing. So it's really kind of tremendous what's happening from this technology. It's really the secret sauce that puts LiveU Solo in a class by itself for the money. So let's go into the details of what each of these Connect bundles is. So you start with a Solo, and for the example we have up here, we're using the 995 HDMI version. You pick which starter pack you want with either 2 modems or the 3 modems, which is 2 modems and the MiFi, and then you add the data plan. Now the data plan comes with what you buy. So the 2 modems come with a $295 month data plan, the 3 modems come with a $435 modem plan, and I want to stress that you can get a 5% discount when you sign up if you use Solo-Videoguys. I'm sorry, I'm moving around, I'm screwing you up, Adam. And then also, you get the LRT service included in that bundle. But one of the things I want to talk about with the data plans, a lot of people say, oh my gosh, you know, $295 a month. Well, the way I look at that is if I'm going to use this thing on the weekend, and I'm going to use it 4 weekends a year, it's basically $75 to produce a show, and I'm covering my cost. And if I'm bringing this with me and I'm an event producer, I can, in my contract, guarantee bandwidth. I don't have to worry that when I walk into this place, all of a sudden their firewall or something else is going to screw us up. And you know, that's one of the things I don't think people realize. You know, the church or the school or the organization says, hey, don't worry, this is going to work great when you come in, but then you get over there and all of a sudden, you know, all hell breaks loose and you can't get out to the internet. So Dan, let's talk about that a little bit because I think that deserves some mention.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've heard that story kind of time and again. One of our early adopters of the Solo product was somebody that would shoot, if I recall correctly, it was operas in theaters, you know, with permissions, obviously, of the performers. And they would tell us that same story. Every place would sort of say, oh, yeah, we've got internet. We've got Wi-Fi. Don't worry about it. We've got Wi-Fi here. And then you would get in and you're getting 750 kilobits or a megabit maybe, you know, uplink on this you know, poor ISP drop that's a consumer drop being shared through this whole professional building, you know, across all these different services that they're already running inside the building. So their ability to walk in and say, hey, don't worry about any Wi-Fi or LAN drop. We've got it covered. Put the camera anywhere we want. We don't have to worry about where the plugs are. You know, we know we're going to get the bandwidth we want was a big deal. And we see that kind of same story repeated for sports customers, for houses of worship, for entertainment production, for enterprise production.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is as you can see here, I have the SoloConnect service plans up there. There's a 2 modem and a 3 modem. You can pay the monthly price of $295, or you can get a yearly plan for $29.50. You get unlimited data, and you get the LRT cloud included, or if you get the 3 modem plan, it's $435 monthly price, annual $43.50, unlimited and included. So now I want to go through the actual workflow of getting this set up, because this is something that people always try to do, and we got to be clear with people, and that is your modems don't light up in 30 seconds. If you're going to need this for the weekend, you want to get it set up like on Wednesday or Thursday before. It takes some time. Sometimes, depending on where you are with your carriers, it can take a day or two for the modems to light up, but you basically get the starter kit, you register the kit serial number on the Solo portal, you choose your data plan, you enter the promo code, and then in approximately 24 to 48 hours, your modem should light up. Isn't that right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, a slight downside of using these business plans that aren't generally available consumer plans is that we need to go through some different offices at the carriers and some different back-end systems with the carriers. So that creates a little delay on that first one-time activation. Once they're lit up, then you can use them at the drop of a hat anytime you want. But that very first time you're getting it, yeah, we definitely recommend leave yourself like 2 or 3 days there to get them all set up and lit up.
Yeah, so we have right now our tips, which is, you know, allow 3 business days, test your gear early in the week. If your Solo's needed for the weekend, have your test done before the previous Wednesday. We've got the LiveU. You guys have good help when you're on there, you know, but the truth of the matter is people sometimes think they're going to get a product like this on a Friday and be streaming on Saturday, and that's just not realistic. So we're trying to set expectations. You know, once you set it up the first time, every other time you set it up is a matter of minutes, but that first time you have to allow time for everything to sync up, identify, and get itself all together.
Agreed.
Now, one of the things that's a little confusing is that I sign up for the plan monthly, and I can deactivate and stop at any time I want, but starting up isn't as simple as like going on hiatus or hibernating, the term they use. So if you want to stop your monthly service, you can. It's pretty simple, but to start it back up, that can take some time. You actually have to get new SIMs for your modems, correct?
That's right. So there's no contract here. There's no commitment. It's not the old days of cellular where we need you to sign up for a year and then you're, you know, beholden to that year. You can quit at any time, and you can do it right from the portal on your own. If you need to take that month off from paying, or you don't have any gigs planned and that's how your business works, then stop it. But specifically for the SIMs here, while you can restart the LRT cloud service at any time with these SIMs, again, using these business-to-business plans, we've got some restrictions here coming from the carriers. Not trying to place all the blame on them, but you know where the blame deserves to be placed. But Yeah, exactly. So, we need to ship you out some new sims to get them going again, which we're happy to do. And if you need to stop for a period of time and then get going again, we're very happy to help you with that. We just want you to, again, like that first time setup, leave yourself enough time that we can get that all figured out and get it started.
And we're setting realistic expectations for our customers. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears now, and I love this talk about the Solo, fantastic product, but whenever I have you, we have to talk about what's on everybody's mind. We all see the ads, we all see the commercials, we're all starting to believe the hype. Let's talk about 5G, where we are, where it's going. Now, we had you on a show earlier, I think it was last year or the end of this year, maybe it was early this year, I can't remember, but we were talking about the future roadmap. We were talking about this year, but that was before COVID. COVID has definitely had an impact on the rollout of 5G. Can you quickly explain how it's kind of delayed and create a speed bump for all of us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it created a speed bump, I think, for a lot of businesses out there, certainly for a lot of people in their personal lives. And it did for the carriers, too. They weren't so big that they were immune to it, right? They were in the process of rolling out these 5G networks, and all of a sudden, personnel had to be at home, even just getting permits, depending on the different rules in different states, to go out and work on the top of a light pole or a tower were different, during quarantine months and lockdown months. So it really had a slowing effect on the rollout of 5G networks, in particular, millimeter wave networks, which do require all new antennas, all new installations, all new radios, unlike the sub 6 gigahertz 5G, which in some cases can just be software switched on a tower, and you don't need to install any new hardware. So we've seen both a slowdown and a switch over from one type of technology, the 5G millimeter wave, to a focus on the sub 6 gigahertz 5G, which
so Dan,
maybe wasn't as focused on before.
Let's take a little sidebar, okay? Because people get confused. The 5G sub mini, the shortwave, that was really what we were talking about, putting in a stadium where people could interact with the screens and each other and stuff like that. And those waves don't really penetrate stuff, so you kind of needed line of sight. It was thought to be something like for entertainment purposes. And then the sub 6 was really where we were going to get further distances, better coverage, better bandwidth, more connectivity. And the combination of the two was going to create like this super mesh where, we could have auto cars and things responding and stuff like that. So the mini mesh, obviously, the problem with that is we don't have stadiums. There isn't even a practicality to put it in, and you weren't even allowed into those buildings to get access. So, and building 5G spots was really tough too. You were right. You couldn't get access to every pole on every corner and things like that. So it's kind of gotten delayed, but the carriers' investments haven't slowed down. They just they haven't been able to deploy the people to do it because it's just not available during a pandemic to do that kind of thing.
No, and they switched some of that effort to their sub 6 gigahertz network. So, bands in the sub 6 gigahertz range are where LTE operates today. There are some new channels in there that weren't available for LTE. They're not available for 5G, but there's some pros and cons there. It traverses longer distances, passes through some solid objects. It is higher performance than LTE, but anytime you think of the sort of staggering numbers you've ever heard with 5G, 10 gigabits through the air and millions of users in one block, that's all referring to the millimeter wave tech that's been slowed down by COVID and the crisis. The sub 6 gigahertz is very exciting. It performs very well, 25% better than LTE, and there are new channels opened up, and the carriers have done a good job now of accelerating their nationwide rollouts of those networks, but it's not going to give you triple the performance of LTE, right? So it's going to give you an incremental
from a LiveU Solo point of view, that's probably more helpful for us though, because I'm not going to give you your whole product role plan, but I got to assume the first modems we were going to get for Solo that were going to be 5G were going to be the sub 6, not the mini, right? Because we were going to take advantage of the increased performance.
So kind of goes against logic there that the carriers early on, and they were hard to get during Corona, I'll talk a little bit about that, put out a series of MiFis that were millimeter wave capable because the carriers were very anxious to get this really hot technology in the field and show off how powerful it was. So the earliest things they launched were millimeter wave MiFis. Now they were bigger. You wouldn't really call it a modem. I mean, it was definitely a MiFi, and you would tether it to the Solo LAN or Wi-Fi, but they were very high performance, and they could connect to the millimeter wave networks where they were available, which was only a few, usually like 12 or 13 cities around the country, but you could actually use millimeter wave 5G with that. Now the carriers are sort of backtracking again because they've had to hit polls on these millimeter wave networks and say, hey, we lit up a sub 6 gigahertz nationwide network. Now let's get the devices in the field that can connect to that network and make sure that people are connected.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I think one of the things you talked about is we could put a sub 6 in a modem about this size, but the millimeter actually needs a lot bigger modem, even though it's called millimeter, right? So it's another one of those counterintuitive things for people in our industry to have to get their head around.
Yeah, the antennas for millimeter wave are larger and often power. They're what's called beamforming. So when you see, for instance, the Netgear Nighthawk that's 5G capable, it's even larger than the LTE Nighthawk. And the LTE Nighthawk was no small guy to start with. So they're sizable devices, but again, performance is really great if you can take advantage of it. So, and they work great with Solo today.
So let's bring this up full screen. And Dan, when we were here last time, we talked about by 2022 what we were going to see. Millimeter networks in city cores and urban areas, that's been delayed. Nationwide sub 6 for all carriers, it's been delayed, but it's kind of accelerated. All 3G, 3.5 networks gone. I don't think anyone's so fast to pull the plug on the old stuff right now. And then you have access to technology like network slicing in areas of MMW. So 2022 may be ambitious, but I don't, from what I'm understanding and hearing the carriers, what they're talking about with their investments and stuff like that, the changes by 2025, they're still going to get there. They're going to brute force and invest what it takes to be there because they know it's the future of their industry, and the race is the one the race has been on, and it's not ending. Everyone had a pause, but it was like the yellow flag, you know. Everyone was under the same rules, and once that flag goes back to green and everyone can go full speed, they're ready to charge again.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think also changed since the last time we spoke about it was the Sprint and T-Mobile merger.
Yep.
So now you really have three entities that have a huge amount of resources and very deep pockets, all three of them, to execute these changes. And like you said, they're just waiting for the green light and going to get out there and do it. So I agree. We'll see some slowdown, especially going into 2021. Maybe some of the goals they had set for 2022 sliding a little bit, but they'll have plenty of time before 2025 to catch up there.
So one of the things we had up last show was the LiveU 5G 3-year roadmap. So the LU 800 at the time, we couldn't even call it by a product name or anything. We just called it a new product. You've now announced that that's the first product really designed for a 5G world. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but since this is the Solo show, let's talk about when do you think we'll see 5G modems for this puppy, the Solo?
Well, like I said, it not available from us, but if you go out and get from AT&T, the Nighthawk, or from Verizon, the Inseego 5G MiFis, they work great as MiFis that work with the unit, tether them over LAN or tether them over USB so that you don't have to worry about the battery charge in the MiFi. They'll both work with the LiveU Solo today, and you can get on 5G today if you really needed to.
So let me stress this for a second. So we have these Connect kits, which are great, and they've made working with the LiveU easier than ever with the LiveU Solo, but that doesn't change the underlying fact that this just looks for USB modems. And if those USB modems are 5G modems and they're approved and tested, they're going to work. It's not like you have to redesign the unit. If I own a Solo and 5G modems become readily available, I can upgrade to 5G modems and start taking advantage of 5G anytime. Correct, Dan?
That's exactly correct. Now, of course, we also want to then upgrade our Connect kits to be 5G capable. And we're working on that internally right now in the lab. And I think you'll see something early 2021, potentially a change over those SoloConnect kits to 5G.
Awesome. So now let's talk about a brand new product that is in the early stages of shipping from you guys. This is a product that Videoguys will not be selling, but when we see new cool tech from our vendors, we like talking about it because we know that certain features, certain components, certain pieces of this will eventually fall down into the stuff we sell. But this product is a really revolutionary product. It's really taking you guys to the next level. And what I really love about it, it's really making synchronized remote video productions not just a possibility, but a reality that's bulletproof. Talk about it a little bit.
Absolutely. So the LiveU 800 is up to a 4-input device built from the ground up to be 5G, which takes those 4 inputs, sends them as 4 HEVC streams in perfect synchronization, and on the far side you get a multi-camera output that, again, you can do that remote production we kind of started talking about in the show with. And in this case, it's perfectly frame synchronized. So you'll see some encoders in the market that'll do 4 inputs like that. And the way they do the frame synchronization is to then rasterize that into a single 4K frame and send it. We did not follow that technique here. Those are 4 independent streams, which can each make their own decisions about the resiliency that's needed for that stream. So if one happened to lose a packet or lose a little bit of information from a frame, it can use forward error correction or resends to fix just that one stream. But on the far side, they still get synchronized and the frames come out in the exact order that they were received in. Exact timing they were
This is a
received in,
super cool product. If you're interested in learning more information for it, go straight to the LiveU website. If you do call Video Guys, you want to ask questions about it, we'll ask you, we can answer some very rudimentary questions, but we're going to turn you over to LiveU. And you guys do have a network of your best dealers who are now carrying it. Now, I said it earlier, did I misquote? Is the LU 800 shipping at this point?
The LU 800 is shipping, very limited quantities. I'm not going to say you're going to find it every single place you look for it, but yeah, it is shipping at this point.
Cool. So now I want to go to the LU Solo Future. Once again, we have the HDMI version for $995, the LU Solo for $1495. What's next for the Solo? We talked about 5G with 5G modems, but I talk to you guys about this all the time, what, Video Guys, what my wish list is. So I'm going to lay some of this stuff out for you, and I don't expect you to say yes or no, but you're going to get it. I'm telling it to you whether you like it or not. So I love the LRT cloud, but I think there's more we could do with it. I would love if I could have the ability to insert like a lower third or a bug through the cloud. And I'm saying define what that graphic space is. It's got to be X by X in this color space. You do it, you upload it, you can hold it. I think that would be amazing. Maybe it could be stored on, the card that's in here. I think that would be something very cool we could do. I'm still looking for a way to integrate this thing with scoreboards. That's one of the things I get asked by my sports people all the time. How do I get the scoreboard to work with it? And I'm thinking maybe if we can integrate into the LiveU, can we get a way for scoreboards to get up to LRT for us? And then the other feature that I want to ask you about is kind of like, this is called the Solo. Would you ever consider doing a duo unit that let me bring in, 2 cameras, so I could do 2 cameras or a camera or a PowerPoint, from the field? So once again, Dan, I don't want to get you fired. I know, the guys will get really mad at you if I went too far. That's why I threw the softballs out there. And feel free to knock them out and tell me what you're working on, what you can tell us about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we have a lot of partners in the Solo portal that help us with graphics, even help us with scoreboards today. And we, really appreciate what those partners do for our streamers that are using the Solo. I agree that, there's some keys things there that could be brought even a little closer into the technology so that they are both part of our cloud, which saves our end users maybe, one more complex step or a little bit of latency if they're having to go to another service. Yeah. And then there's, some questions too, just from a pure, not to get down in the weeds of the tech part of it, but where those actions are happening and where it makes sense for them to happen. So you're right, that right at the point of encode, right on that encode chip is a great point to insert those graphics and something we would like to see. I think that, when we talk about features like that, there's things that we can do in the cloud and that can work with every unit that's in the field today. And then there's some things that we have to reserve for a next generation of hardware, and that will work with that next generation of hardware, going forward.
Oh, yeah, and I forgot the other request that people have is they know they can go from the LRT to Restream or other services, but that creates a lag that can be maddening at times. So they'd love it if your cloud could go to multiple points as well. But there you go on that. Dan, thank you so much. I think you answered the question without jeopardizing your employment, which is very important because we love having you on the show. We love the job you're doing, so keep that up. Any final thoughts you have? Maybe something we left out or something you would have liked us to go into depth a little bit more on today's show?
Yeah, well, just not to let any cats out of the bag, but when I look down to the future of Solo, one of the things that I wonder about too is 4K production. So we know sometimes the level of production that a Solo customer is doing races ahead to something like 4K, where the level of production that a NBC News is doing, they've got, so much millions of dollars of infrastructure to change over that they're slow to get to something like 4K.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I always appreciate your feedback on, appreciate your customers' feedback on, and your partners' feedback on is, how much do they see 4K as a need? Where's that going? We know YouTube already accepts it. We know YouTube will already accept it directly in HEVC format. Well, that's a feature they keep very quiet and then don't talk about much. So um, I like to see, a next generation of Solo that's 4K capable, HEVC capable, and interested in any feedback that everybody
Oh,
has on that.
sign me up, Coach. I think we'd love that. And 4K is a funny thing because it looked like it was like on this massive acceleration. And I don't think it was the virus, but having to go to remote workflows made everyone think twice. But one of the things about 4K is when you have 4K in the camera and you're going to an HD final output, you could do the EPTZ and other stuff that really lets you add what looks like a lot of extra added production quality, but really all you're doing is scanning an HD chunk out of a 4K world. And I definitely think if people had the LiveU to be able to do that, like for a sporting event, you could have that camera fixed and then the operator back at the place could be scanning and watching the show and following what he needs to follow out of that 4K, HD cutout of the 4K. So I love that you're thinking about 4K. I think it's going to be important. And you mentioned something that, is so true. And that is people have been watching our show for a couple of years, have seen how our show's gotten better. I mean, you're in here like we're talking together. I will put the production quality of this show today up against the stuff you're seeing on network TV, cable news, and even everything short of the conventions themselves, which are slick, but the talking heads afterwards talking about it, not so much. And the truth of the matter is the people using this technology, we're really pushing that window. And I do agree with you that we have a certain set of people who will want to go 4K far before broadcast and other people do, because when I do it or my customers do it, we don't have a whole infrastructure and years of design and engineering. We're trying to tag along with it. We're just trying to do the coolest, best, hottest new thing we can and have fun with it. And I know so many people have 4K cameras. We have 4K screens all over our house, and everyone's telling me, but why is the difficult part the part in the middle? It used to be the cameras and the glass were the problems, and now it's the whole middle piece. So love that you're thinking 4K. Dan, this is a fantastic show. Thank you so much. I think this is the third or fourth time you've been on the show, and every time it's fantastic. It's knowledgeable. You're a great guy to talk to, and just thanks for being on the show. And I'm going to sign you out now, and I'm going to go talk about what's going to be on the upcoming show. So Dan, thank you very much. Dan Pisarski from LiveU. Great show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Cool. What's coming up? Back to school, people. And we know back to school is the most awkward back to school in the history of mankind. For those of you who don't know me through my social media, I am actually on the Board of Ed in our local school district. And you're going to want to watch this show because we're going to really talk about back to school, about tools that we sell that are affordable that your school can use to do remote learning, to help the teacher in the classroom who has to deal with kids who are not in the classroom, or perhaps the teacher has been quarantined and has to teach to a classroom full of kids. It's more than just Zoom. It's more than Google Meets. There's so many great ways to add great video production quality. And one of the things I want to stress on this is that talking heads on a screen gets monotonous and boring in a hurry. We did a show a few months ago, in fact, in the beginning of the COVID, and then a follow-up right after we got back in the studio on do's and don'ts with virtual trade shows. You got to make your video engaging more than a talking head. And the way we bring in the graphics and the stuff we do on our show, you as a teacher can do stuff like that too. You as an educator, as a college, can be doing stuff like that, where the professor can be standing and showing his presentation at the same time, where you can bring in a guest remotely, or perhaps on the screen that's over my shoulder are the kids in the classroom being in the Zoom that's coming in. There's so many things you can do. We're going to talk about our products. We're going to talk about that show, all focusing on education. The reason why we only have this listed on September 1st is I am very, very confident that I will not be able to do this show in a half hour. So we think that this show may have a part 1 and a part 2, so we're keeping it a little open. We're going to do back to school at the beginning of September, and then we're going to roll with some new products, some new stuff too. This is Gary from Videoguys. 3 p.m. Tuesdays. You give us a half hour, 20 minutes. We're going to tell you all about good stuff, of course, because I had a guest on today, Adam. I ran too long. We're 35 minutes. I apologize for going so long. I hope everyone found the information we provided to be valuable. Like us on Facebook. Love us. Give us the love. Share us on social media. All that good stuff. We're here. You can call us on our 800 number. You want to learn more about how to use a TriCast, how to use LiveU Solo, you can talk to Adam and Oliver. They use these products in producing our shows. They're beyond experts. They're certified in these products. Call Videoguys. Call us at 800-323-2325. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And also, see you next week. Video goes live Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Peace. We're out of here.
Videoguys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.